Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about critical degrees in astrology. Now, there's often a common misconception or misperception regarding critical degrees in astrology. I think there's a number of people that think, well, they might have kind of like that pessimistic or fatalistic outlook on it and saying, well, this has got to be bad, I'm doomed. Well, I don't think all critical degrees are not going to necessarily be bad. There are points of significance. They might, a lot of times it's more where that sign on that degree is more emphasized and accentuated as opposed to other degrees in a natal chart. When you look at critical degrees, I would look at the sun, moon, and ascendant, really, mainly because those are the three main proponents, I believe, that are associated with one's personality. The ascendant, of course, being the outer demeanor and our outer characteristics that we project. The sun being our true selves, and the moon is a strong component as well. The moon does give us some very strong characteristics and traits. So we really we look at this now. If we look at the main critical degrees, the more popular ones, I guess, are for as far as cardinal signs, 0, 13, and 26 degrees, the fixed signs 8, 9, 21, and 22 degrees, and the mutable signs 4 degrees and 17 degrees are of significance. Now, these degrees can be more accentuated, more emphasized. According to one website, that 22 degrees of all signs are perceived as adverse or negative. It said something like general misfortune. Now, if somebody's talking about, they say general, general misfortune. Now, I don't remember if it said general misfortune on the site or not, but I think presumably if somebody says if it's something is 20 is something is bad, I would see it as general misfortune. I think that's what it was. I don't think that was on the site. I got to correct myself on that. Now, 22 degrees, it depends on the sign that it's in too. I think because, like for example, I have 22 degrees Taurus rising, many of you know. Now, with 22 degrees Taurus rising, I look at this, well, Taurus is connected with things that are values and things that are monetary. So I think presumably the misfortune would correspond more things of that nature. And I'm not exactly flourishing financially. I have had certain general misfortune as far as things connected with a monetary nature, so I would say that could be pretty accurate. Somebody, say 22 degrees, let's say they had a Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at 22 degrees, well, perhaps this could indicate general misfortune as maybe matters pertaining to the home and to the family. So that, to me, that is something I would look at as well. Now, if you have, let's say, now, as I stated before, the main, as far as the more popular degrees, as far as critical degrees go, you look at, I'll give you an example. Michael Jordan, legendary NBA pro basketball player, has 13 degrees Cancer rising. And I would say he's a fairly popular person, somebody of pretty good stature, notoriety. He also has Venus at 13 degrees Capricorn, very close proximity to his 13 degree Capricorn descendant. And I think that a lot of it, when we see Michael Jordan, part of the reason he's so favorable to others, and even when he was involved in some late night gambling in his NBA career, there was some scrutiny with this, and he was really scrutinized, and it didn't really seem to make a dent in him And I think a lot of that's attributed to having that 13 degree Capricorn descendant and having Venus at 13 degrees Capricorn conjuncted. It seemed like that his people, the relationship he has with others, he has such tremendous rapport that he's the kind of person that can do something that might seem somewhat negative, but all is almost forgiven instantaneously. It seems like people can't unlove Michael Jordan. I think a lot of that is attributed to what I just described. Now, we look at some other degrees. Now, when you look at another thing too, here's an example of somebody that gained notoriety, but it was really in a negative way. Adolf Hitler had 26 degrees Libra rising, and I think a lot of, whether it could be someone connected with fame or infamy, perhaps depends on a lot of the aspects in the natal chart. Perhaps if somebody, say, with an ascendant at one of the critical degrees, perhaps if the ruling planet of that ascendant makes predominantly negative aspects, I think that can factor in as far as something maybe negative connected with this person. If it makes a lot of good aspects, then you might see it go the other way, and this person could be somebody that maybe achieves some kind of fame on some level and accolades and notoriety. Now, another negative, here's a good example first, is that actor Mel Gibson. He has his sun sign at 12 degrees 30 minutes of arc of Capricorn. Now, I know that's a half a degree from the 13, but it's still close. And to me, Capricorn is a sign that's connected with ambition, person's career, being industrious, hardworking. And I think that maybe this plays a little role in his fame. Now, he also has his moon at almost exactly 0 degrees Libra, so I think that could play a role too, because Libra is a sign associated with the arts. So that is of some significance with Mel Gibson. Now, on one negative side, now here, this is not known as maybe one of the more popular critical degrees, but many of you may have heard of, at least, I don't know what the exact degree is, but it's at least close to 9 degrees Gemini. Now, I'm sure many of you heard of the ruthless, I look at him as a ruthless dictator, Mussolini. He had his moon at 9 degrees Gemini. Now, on one source, I believe it was in a book some time ago, I wish I could tell you the name of it, I don't remember. It stated warmongering could be connected with this degree, so maybe somebody that kind of could potentially instigate if that position is adversely aspected. And according to a website, it's listed as a degree of homicide. Now, many of you know Mussolini was executed in 1945. His moon in Gemini also conjoined his natal Mars and Pluto. So I think for these reasons we saw maybe this degree really take on a real negative element in as far as this perhaps volatility goes. Now, also Mussolini had Scorpio rising, and Scorpio rising in maybe a negative manifestation or expression, and at its worst can be someone that can maybe very strongly be about power and control. So I think you had that all mixed in with him, and that's kind of why maybe he had just such a negative expression of these elements. The moon in Gemini, 9 degrees, and then you had the Scorpio ascendant. His ruling planet, one of the ruling planets of Scorpio is Mars, and that conjoined is 9 degrees Gemini moon. So you can kind of see where I'm getting at with that. And really, we look at this, and there's also something else interesting, and I talked about this in a previous video, 29 degrees of a sign. And 29 degrees of a sign I believe can indicate ambivalence, ambiguity. It's a position, it's a degree of upheaval, degree of crisis, but it could also show the culmination of that particular sign, I believe. And somebody that has 29 degrees in their sun, moon, or ascendant can show a very strong energy associated with that sign. Somebody, say, that has 29 degrees Scorpio rising, moon, or sun may show a very, very strong emphasized interest, perhaps in astrology, occult, supernatural subjects, something connected with investigation, maybe even forensics, things that are associated perhaps with mystery. This person may have perhaps be maybe enamored or fixated with the subject of death. Those are some things to look at. I had somebody figured prominently in my life a long time ago, and she has 29 degrees Cancer ascendant, and I mean, she really, I would say, strongly emphasized and accentuated Cancer rising personality, as far as I guess you could say, the emotionality, the sensitivity, being enamored with home and family, and but at the same time, her life was somewhat crisis-ridden and in a lot of upheavals. I mean, she had so many moves, and of course moving a lot can be associated with the sign Cancer, multiple residences, and the word peripatetic would probably be an understatement for her. And she lived in so many places. I don't even know if I could count how many places she's lived, but that kind of seems like that's the thing that was so strongly associated with her, and I think a lot of that was attributed to her having 29 degrees Cancer rising. So another thing was interesting too I want to get at is that according to a site, 15 degrees Leo seemed to be something that could be critical and negative, something where it could indicate something debilitating to a person, and as far as perhaps a physical injury. And that was something I thought was interesting. I knew somebody that had, I don't remember, I think it was his Mercury was near or at 15 degrees Leo, and he had a breakdown when he was younger, and delusions of grandeur, and I think Neptune may have been involved in that, but I can't swear on that. I think it may have conjoined his Mercury, and that didn't play a role. That probably didn't help matters. So, and also a former friend of mine, I don't remember the exact degree, but I think his rising sign was very close to 15 degrees Leo, if not at 15 degrees Leo, and he was involved in some accident which he had to have at least part of one of his legs amputated and replaced with like a prosthetic leg. So, and I'm not saying everybody with that has 15 degrees sun, moon, or ascendant in Leo is going to wind up with something maybe catastrophic, not catastrophic, but something very debilitating connected with them, as far as something of a physical nature or impairment. But perhaps it can be, there might be a slightly greater propensity for that with that degree as opposed to many others. So anyway, people, that's what I wanted to get at as far as the critical degrees go. And also, I don't know how many of you believe in the Sabian symbols, but you could always Google that, and you could get a number of websites will have descriptions for the various zodiac sign degrees going for all 12 signs, all 30 degrees, 30 degrees of each sign. So you'll have 360 descriptions total. So, but I think that they're written in a way where you kind of have to decipher what it means. It's not really I don't believe that they're written in regular, I guess you could say regular terms, uh, that really, that you can really just look at on the surface and understand. They have a little bit, they represent something, and you have to they might use like things like symbolism, and like one of the degrees stated something about, well, such and such person shouting for freedom, or something, and of, about somebody, and I think what it meant was somebody that might have felt condemned or something, and they wanted to fit into certain group, or might have had feelings of ostracism, and something about was shouting, the person was wanting to be either accepted in a certain group and felt isolated and didn't belong. But you'll see what I'm saying if you actually go on to a site that has the descriptions for all the Sabian symbols. So it really is, it's something where you have to look at it a little bit, maybe think a little what the actual what the meaning is, because they're kind of like metaphors, I believe, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for critical degrees in astrology. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my series on duplicated signs in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.